Welcome back to Coffee Talk. What does it actually take to win in today's marketplace? Not theoretically. Right now, in the middle of all of this change and uncertainty and noise, what does it take? My guest today has been navigating that question for decades. He started at Xerox back when the internet was barely a thing, built sales organizations from the ground up, scaled a company from 23 million to over 100 million, and he is currently leading a full transformation at FinListics as their chief strategy officer. He has seen every market shift this industry has thrown at us, and he's still in the room, still learning, and still winning. In this conversation, Kevin Armstrong and I get into what it really looks like to show up, to stand out and stay relevant, whether you're mid-career, navigating a transition, or just trying to figure out your next move. And we get into something that I think is going to land with a lot of you, that you can be competitive, driven, and relentless and still be a really good human. You don't have to choose. This one left me with a lot to think about. I think it'll do the same for you. Let's get into it. Kevin Armstrong, welcome to Coffee Talk.
I can't tell you how happy I am to be here. So thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course. I am so thrilled to be having this conversation with you. Every time we chat, I honestly feel like I walk away a little bit better than you found me. So thank you for all of our chats and all of your insights that you always just pour out. You are a walking mentor. So thank you so much for joining us today. I know we're all going to, as I said, be a little bit better.
I feel like I need entrance music with all of that buildup. So thank you for such a kind introduction.
All right. Before we get into it, let's take a second, introduce yourself to our listeners, tell them who you are.
So Kevin Armstrong, I'm a Pisces. I like long walks on the beach. No, Kevin Armstrong. I know very, very many people in our ecosystem that you and I run into at a lot of these shows because I've been fortunate enough to be around the technology ecosystem, specifically the Microsoft Dynamics ecosystem for well over 20 years. As you said, I am the Chief Strategy Officer at FinListics. We're an AI company and doing some wonderful things, but that's not what we're here to talk about today. Decades now watching evolution, watching innovation, learning from people, and really living, a great career within this ecosystem that you and I kind of coexist within. So really, really excited to have a conversation with you and see where we go with it.
Before we get into anything tactical, you've been in technology, as you said, for a long time. And I'm curious, when you look back at the arc of your career, what is the word that comes up for you?
Grateful. Grateful is the word. And I can click into that and tell you why. It's such a great question because when I think back, I've been in several companies, but I've been a part of so many incredible teams. And the thing that really strikes me at this point of my career and why I say grateful is it's not just grateful for the people and the companies and the lessons learned. It's grateful that we get to do this. Mm-hmm. I'm grateful that we are in the rooms that we're in, that we're at the tables that we're at, that we're at the intersection of so much innovation, that we're, experience the things we experience, that we get to have the conversations that we get to have, that my life has been impacted by so many incredible leaders and sellers. And I'm just grateful. I'm grateful to have had this journey.
That is such a powerful word. And that word is not one that a lot of people may use after having such a long-standing career. It's one that I certainly use, but it is such a powerful word. And I think if I can dig into that a little bit, if we can wake up every day with that mindset of just being grateful to be here, to have these conversations, to be in these relationships, to have this product, to have this business that we get to dig into, we get to innovate, we get to grow. I think that helps you put one foot in front of the other when it gets a little bit dodgy. And it's dodgy for a lot of people right now. There have been some real inflection points for you in your career. Were there moments where you genuinely didn't know how it was going to go?
Yeah, many of them. I'll start with one that I don't know that you and I have ever really discussed, but the very beginning of my career was an unknown. I was fortunate enough to play baseball at a professional level, but when you come out of athletics and you're in college and you're trying to, I had it all figured out. I had it figured out from the time I was 5, 6 years old. My parents took me to Yankee Stadium. Matter of fact, right here over my shoulder is Thurman Munson. He was a catcher for the Yankees back in the 70s. And I never forget it. I literally knew what my life was going to turn out to be because at bat day in 1976, I got a Thurman Munson bat at Yankee Stadium. That day, I said to my dad, I said, I'm going to be a catcher. I'm going to play professional baseball. Right. I have a picture from that day, which is so cool that I have that. I had it all figured out. I was going to be an athlete. I was going to be a baseball player. I was going to do all of the things that I had in my head. And thankfully, a lot of that worked out. But then I had to figure out what was next. And, I was very, very fortunate early in my career to have an opportunity to work at Xerox. Yeah. And, that was super interesting because back then, this is before the internet, right? This is like the internet is just starting. So, they were very, very well known for being one of the top sales organizations in the world. And so I had this incredible good fortune of being based in the Washington, D.C. area with Xerox. I'm still very, very close with a lot of the people who I came up with in the selling organization and even some of the leaders from back then. They had this thing called Xerox Document Center University right there in Leesburg, Virginia. And people have heard of things like the GUI and the mouse and how Xerox designed and created those things out at the Park Research Center. But they also had this incredible learning center. So right away, early in my career, I got to take Bosworth solution selling DeVito, the Challenger sale, you name it. I took that we could take them for free. So I was a sponge. I wanted to learn all of it, right? Because I was an athlete trying to make it now in the business world, didn't know where I wanted to go with it, didn't know what I wanted to do with it, but I loved competition, right? So very early in my career, I had the incredible fortune of working with some unbelievable sellers and unbelievable leaders at Xerox. And to get back to your question, the first moment where I had oh, wow, this is going to be interesting was shortly thereafter, at the end of the 90s, coming into the 2000s, I was navigating what was then the dot-com era and trying to get a footing at some up-and-coming tech companies. And then 9/11 hits.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that was a hit.
I didn't know what was going to happen, right? So what had happened was I had been working with a project with National Geographic, the magazine, but we were working with the media entity, and we had to build a custom transactional engine for them, and we had to plug in a financial system to it. That system was Great Plains.
Wow.
So I said, well, if we're going to go into a global downturn, which we didn't know at the time what was going to happen, it was a holy cow moment. Like, what are we going to do? I figured, let me go into something that was going to be somewhat recession proof. So I went into ERP.
Wow. It's so interesting to me, Kevin, being a host of Coffey Talk. I get to hear all of these backstories, right? I get to hear the moment that you my guests entered into ERP, entered into tech. And a lot of times it was, I kind of just stumbled into it. It found me. I didn't find it. I love all of these backstories and how you ended up where you are. You've been through so many different eras in this industry. Has there been one that changed you more than any of the others?
I suppose there's a recency bias in the answer I'm going to give you, but it's this one.
Yeah, right.
It's this shift towards AI because the internet was a massive change. And I'll come back to that. But then you had Y2K, you had 9/11, you had the 2008 economic collapse that we had as a country. You had the boom of the cloud and SaaS overall. Like there was a lot of shifts over time. For me, and maybe because I just don't remember how dramatic it was when the internet became very prevalent in how we were selling. But for me, the shift towards AI has been both an incredible catalyst for learning, but it's also causing quite a bit of evolution, both on the positive and on the negative, right? So for me right now, this one is the one that stands out as being the most impactful because it comes with a great amount of opportunity and a considerable amount of challenges.
It does. And I'll ask you your why in just a little bit. So there's a clue of a question that's coming. You can start thinking of it. It has challenged me to get back to my why because it is such a dramatic, I'm going to use the word jolt, not in a negative connotation, but it has been such a quick change. 3 years ago, I wasn't where I am now with AI. And I laugh and say we are living the history lessons that will be taught 20, 25 years from now. We're in it. We're living it. So absolutely, I agree with you on that front. This era right now is changing me dramatically every day in good ways. It is pushing me. It's pushing all of us to learn more, to do more, to be more. But it also is quietly having me return back to my roots of myself and how do I want to show up? How do I want to serve? How do I want to learn? So it's such an interesting season for me. I don't know if you're experiencing that as well.
Yeah, very much so. If you would have told me, vulnerable comment, if you would have told me 10 years ago, 20 years ago that in my mid 50s that I'd be in in boardrooms with some of the largest tech companies in the world talking about AI transformations, I might not have believed you. I might not have believed that that perspective was what was going to be wanted at those tables. I watched my father, who is an incredible man and who I have an incredible, I'm very fortunate. Both my parents are still with us and I have a great relationship with them. But I watched my father's career wane pretty hard in his 50s. And it wasn't because he wasn't trying. It wasn't because it had passed him by. It became hard. And with this massive quantum shift towards AI, I mean, you've known me for a minute. I don't lack confidence, but you wonder, am I going to be relevant?
Mm,
So I would tell you that what it has stoked within me is that constant desire to stay relevant, to remain in the room, and not because I have to, but because I love it. I
yeah.
love being there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with that completely. I love this season of my life. I love the community that we're around. And you mentioned the conversations that we get to have. Go into certainly every conference, knowing that I'm going to learn something new, knowing that I'm going to be challenged by something new. And for me, I was having this conversation with someone the other day, and I was talking about how it can be a painful experience to learn something new in your body from a biological standpoint. You are literally blazing new trails in your brain of information. And when I feel my brain light up with that discomfort, I'm like, here we go. Like I know that change is happening. You talk a lot about transformation. When did you first realize that transformation was kind of your thing, or did it find you?
Yeah, I think over time we all have styles, and my style has been for a considerable amount of time, probably even too early in my career. I probably came off as too confident early in my career, but my style is, the good news with me is you always know what I'm thinking. The bad news is you'll always know what I'm thinking, right? I'm just very direct, very matter of fact. It's not that I don't have emotion. I do for sure care about people and their emotions, but I want to get to the outcome. I want to get to the result, and I don't waste a lot of time on the build up to it. So what has served me well in my career, both in tech as a leader and as a mentor, and specifically around transformation, is I don't get emotionally attached to much when it comes to except the outcome. So if that's growth, then we have to be focused on growth, and everything else has to fall in line with that. Right? You can't say I want growth, but then get yourself caught up in things that are dragging you down. You can't say that I want to cut SG&A or COGS or whatever it is, and then spend more money or not put a budget in place that supports it. So fall in love with the outcome and do everything you can to remove the hurdles to get there. And that's really why I think transformation has been something that I've navigated towards, because I like change. I feel comfortable when things are a little bit on fire or difficult.
I do too.
Yeah.
So I mentioned a minute ago, I was going to ask you this question. So here it comes. I love to ask this question. I ask it a lot to a lot of people offline, and now I'm bringing it into Coffee Talk. What's the difference between what you do and why you're doing it? Because I really believe you can feel that difference from across the table. Where do you land on that?
Yeah. So I think the important thing as you mature throughout your career is you try to bring those two closer together. For sure, at this point in my life, my why is to leave it better than I found it, right? My why is to make the company, the ecosystem, the lives of the people around us better than what they were when I came upon them. That's my why. That's what I try to do. I try to either mentor or lead or sell or whatever it is that gets to the outcome that makes it better. And if that's true, if that's my why is to make it better than I found it, right? That's what I'm trying to accomplish. Then everything else has to follow that. Earlier in my career, when you're headstrong or when you're aggressive and the aggressive part of you is what is your leading factor, well, you tend to not recognize the impact that you have both positively and negatively. I was given a gift by a executive coach one time, and if she sees this, she'll know who she's talking about because her words are on a whiteboard right next to me right now. And it was a gift. She said to me, she said, "Kevin, you have an incredible impact, both positively and negatively." She said, "Your words can impact and uplift and tear down and you could be trying to say the exact same thing she said, it's how you say it. And that for me as part, because we're never done evolving. I try to evolve every day, right?
Yeah.
So
I recently finished a leadership course and I'm about to start another one. My biggest takeaway from that, I had to take the test and find out where I landed on on the scale. And the biggest takeaway I had from that was that the things that I learned early in my career, because I am very ambitious, I can be very assertive. I know what I want and I will blaze a trail to get there. Hi, my name is Kate Coffey Bacon. Good to meet you. But the thing that I learned in that course is that those characteristics that I learned early in my career won't necessarily serve me as I move into the next phase of my career as more of an upper level leadership. So I'm in this very transparently, I'm in this uncomfortable phase right now of learning how to navigate with that in mind. And as you said, I can tear it down or I can build it up. And it all depends on the delivery behind what I'm trying to say. And also, Kevin, taking that one step further, knowing and understanding who I'm talking to and how they need to and not want to need to receive a message. And that knowing, I think there's a lot of power in that.
yeah, and I think so comment on your journey. I would say that I've said this to you in private, but I'm going to say it on Coffee Talk. No, it's a good one. In this in the Microsoft ecosystem, there are quite a bit of people that have been around it for some time. What's really hard is breaking into it when you're coming in from a different channel, a different background, a different whatever. And I know a few people who have been impressively noticeable. You are hard to ignore, or you're
Good or bad, it
not
is what
well.
it is.
I'm going to go towards the good because my experience with you has been when you go to these events or when when you're in a business discussion, you have that X factor, you have that intangible, which is you're infectious, right? You are easy to talk to. You're inquisitive. You're genuinely tuned in. Why are you hosting a podcast? Because you like having these conversations.
I do. Yeah, I really do. I love the one-on-one conversations more than there's a reason why. You're right. I do these. I love the one-on-one conversations more than I love being up in front of a crowd of people talking because selfishly, I get something out of this, right?
Well, and it's a gift though, and I would encourage you to keep doing it. It's noticeable. Again, I've said that to you privately. It's is very difficult. I have watched a lot of people try to break into and have an lasting impact in the Microsoft Dynamics ecosystem, and they have hit a brick wall. It's usually not ability. It's usually not knowledge. It's usually being able to break into an ecosystem that is very established, and you've done that seamlessly. And I would tell you, it's largely because of your approach, your approachability, your curiosity, which will come up later when we talk about kind of some of the things that I like to see. So
Yeah.
I say keep doing it.
Thank you, Kevin. That means a lot to me. It truly does. You said that you show up authentically everywhere you go, as do I. If my mouth doesn't say it, my face is going to, so my mouth but might as well just go ahead and say it. So I just, I show up and speak. So I do want to get into something right now because I know you think a lot about what it actually takes to win. That's kind of the preface of this episode, not theoretically in today's market. What are the things you keep coming back to right now? We are in the midst of so much change.
For sure. And in so many ways. So when you talk about change, what strikes me lately, it's not just the people who are in role, who are trying to evolve with a shifting marketplace, messaging that they're not quite used to, moving away from product and more towards concepts like AI and how the solutions can impact their clients and whatnot, moving away from a heavy services model. Like, think about all of the different changes that they're going through, but it's more than that. It's people who are evolving in their careers and trying to decide, man, do I even want to keep doing this? It's younger generations who are trying to make their way into the job market. The job market is brutally difficult right now. Right. So I would tell you, I get asked quite a bit to do mentoring sessions or to offer advice or whatever. I have one key element that is a must for me. It's non-negotiable. I always want to do at least one, if not multiple team sessions, Zoom meetings, whatever, because I want to actually talk with the person before I start giving them some advice. Right. And what I have found is people are really struggling right now to try to navigate this ecosystem. And I think it's a number of different things. But what I would say maybe after we get through some of these, I'll give you kind of what I would be doing if I were them. But the first thing is control your variables. Have an idea of who it is that you want to be, what it is that you want to accomplish, where you think you can make the biggest impact. And with that, controlling your variables, there's a number of different things that I think really I think lead towards success. And the first one is be curious. Be curious. Don't stop learning. Stay in discovery mode. And that's not just per deal. That's every day, right? We should be evolving as people. We've used the word evolution. We've said evolve, but what does that mean? I'll stick on AI for a second. I use Claude. I use OpenAI, so ChatGPT. I use Gemini. I use Jasper. I use Perplexity. I use Manus. I use Grok from time to time for different things. I use all of them, right? And what I try to do literally every single day is if I'm working on something, I put it into different models. I see what it gives me, right? I then take that and morph that. I ask the follow-on questions. Prompting is great because it's like my own little therapist. I can adjust my thought process. I can ask the what if question. I can ask the follow-on question, right? But I'm doing that because I'm curious. I'm curious about the business I'm in. I'm curious about the world we're living in. I'm curious about what the impact of the closing of the Strait of Hormuz is going to have on supply chains globally. I'm interested in all of it. Yeah. Right. And that's me. Imagine if we all did that and remained curious, how much more compelling stuff would make its way into our dialogue every day.
Of these ideas that you have around what it takes to be successful and what it takes to evolve right now, you landed on curiosity first. Why does that one come up first for you?
Because I think people get stale. I think when stress hits, and I think when you're trying to figure out what that next step is, there's a whole lot of whataboutism. There's a whole lot of why me. There's a whole lot of I'm not sure what I want to do anymore. Whether it's my friends who are close to retirement age and have been working for many, many years and are trying to look at that, or whether it's a young, recently graduated student or somebody in their third job. I don't know. I see a lot of the same trends, and one of those trends is just getting stuck.
Yeah. And staying curious and asking questions and digging into, again, going back to the why and the how come and what's next keeps you learning. I have a stack of books, 4 books that I'm in right now. Actually 5, because my daughter and I just decided to read a good old fiction piece together. I am contagiously curious. I ask a lot of questions. I ask a lot of whys. I probably drove my parents crazy when I was a kid. Now we have our phones at our fingertips and we can find out why in a moment's notice. So I absolutely agree with you. And I'll take it a step further. I have a new set of younger professionals that are starting with us and now in the coming months. And I trust them a little bit more when they find out answers on their own. And they show up to me in a conversation with me, ready and prepared to have a conversation because they've been curious. Because they didn't just ask me, how do I do this? They say, I looked at it, I did the research, I found out how to do this, and maybe we can do it this way instead. And I'm like, all right, we're going to be great together. We're going to do great work together because of that
100%.
curiosity. Yeah. And also that preparedness, coming to the conversation ready to have insights, giving me a little bit more than I had before.
Well, and you just touched on a couple more of kind of my isms about should we be doing and where should we be going and what does it look like right now to build or rebuild or reestablish yourself in this world. And it's be prepared, right? It's work. Never let anything or anybody outwork you, right? So if you're curious and then you put the work in, man, that's a great start. It's at least a great foundation, right? But you also said something that I think is extremely important for people to hear. You ask, what question do you ask a lot? Why?
Why? How? What's next?
So think about how many great things happen when you are curious, genuinely curious too, genuinely curious, and you ask the question, why? We want to cut our costs in this area. Why? What are you hoping to accomplish with that? Where will you reinvest that money? Like I'm using a business example to make the point, right? But if you're in any sort of conversation, that double click, that why or what or how are you planning to do that? That curiosity, that asking, the best sellers, in my opinion, are the ones who remain relevant in a room because they stop talking and they let the other person talk. And the best way to do that is to keep asking those follow-on questions. Okay, you've said you want to accomplish this, but why? How are you going to do that? What is it going to get you on the other end of that? What are you not going to do because you're focused on this, right? So that curiosity and that hard work mentality, it goes back to sports for me. A lot of things go back to sports for me. 2021 was the first year that I was not on a field as a player or a coach. I was done coaching my kids for that finally, but it was the first year that I was not on a field, a baseball field, a football field, soccer field, you name it, but primarily baseball since 1978. So that experience and that the gifts that I got from athletics, the togetherness, the passion, the winning, the losing, the teamwork, the hard work, embrace the hard things, all of it, right? That all comes from sports, and it is so appropriate in business.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. And I'm not a sports person. Kevin, don't be mad at me about that.
No.
I'm not a sports person. But I was at another leadership meeting and they were saying I'll use football. I'm probably going to completely butcher this, but they were using football as an example and they were talking about players and how they train for hours, for weeks, for months, for 4 to 5 minutes of playtime on a field. And it's the preparation, the intention that goes into that action time of 4 to 5 minutes that makes all the difference.
So the point you're making, I've told this story many, 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 many times over the years. I call that the practice to performance ratio. The practice to performance ratio for sports is heavily weighted towards practice. The practice to performance ratio, specifically in selling, is typically heavily weighted towards performance. We typically throw somebody to the wolves and tell them, hey, go get it done, right? So that means if you're a leader or even for your own journey, focus on preparation, focus on learning, focus on building something that I've referred to as your personal value equation. What is your personal value equation? You should be investing in that. Your company should be investing in that. Your leaders should be investing in that. And we should be building an approach around preparing well to perform optimally.
Yeah. One of our culture fundamentals at UST is to be more prepared than anybody else. We have 12 culture fundamentals that we live by, I'll use the word perform by. And it's high up there. And that means go into every meeting, go into every conference, go into every conversation, more prepared than anybody else. And it does open doors. I've shown up to meetings before with a full agenda, ready to go. And everyone else is, stammering and doesn't know what to do next. I was on a call with a marketing team, 6-people marketing team. And I showed up on that call with a complete go-to-market strategy ready to go and said, this call is a discussion of how to launch this. I would never tell that story, but I think it applies here. I'm a very small marketing team, but I show up to every single meeting more prepared than anybody else to get things done because we are moving at the speed of light right now.
So go back to something we talked about early in this conversation about like pre-internet, right? Back then, your value equation was you were the conduit to information, right? They didn't have a way. We've all heard the variables, whether it's 80%, 82%, 90%, whatever. That's how much information they bring to the table when a buyer is coming to you at this point, right? I've heard all the variables. Here's the reality. I don't care what the percentage is. You have to break through that and add value still. And the only way to do that, you were prepared enough in the example you just gave, regardless of the tools that you used to do it. And if you didn't use it, you'd be silly. Use the tools to accelerate yourself, right? But you did the work to prepare to have an option should the conversation go in a direction and you needed to fill that void, provide that guidance, be that leader, right? Sellers are the worst at this. And look, sellers, I'm looking at you. I'm one of you, so I can say it. Be better. Be more prepared. Don't lean on the 5 people that you want to put on a Teams call with your buyer to say something, wicked smart. Like be the thought leader, right? Be prepared. Know what are the industry trends? What are the benchmarks? What does your client or the person you're talking to, you know what they know? They know about their own financial situation. They don't know about their competitors. They don't know about the industry. They don't know what 1% improvement across that metric could get them. That's the ROI. That's the internal rate of return. That's the things that you should be preparing for before you get on the phone with them, because you're going to be fighting that in your deal every single time.
So let's get tactical.
Yep.
With this idea of preparation. What does real preparation look like right now? In a world where everyone has access to the same tools, AI, information. But I have ideas, but what do you think?
Yeah.
What does that look like right now?
Well, I think it starts with this. I think we've done a disservice by saying and leaving this impression that it's, that AI is either a good thing or a bad thing or what. There's a lot of opinions, right? I also think we've done a disservice to make it sound like it's AI or humans doing an activity, right? The reality of it is it's AI plus humans, right? The AI itself is only ever going to be as good as the data it's pointed at or
That's
the
right.
question that you're asking or the prompt that you give it, right? It's a platform that's going to try to please you. Can it get smarter over time? Sure. It's learning. It's learning your trends, your voice, your style. It's learning all that. But how does it look right now? It looks like have a perspective. It looks like the moment that our friends in marketing provide us with a hand raiser. You should have already started, but let's say I start researching not just the company, the industry, the trends, what's going on today in the world. I start bringing that curiosity to building a perspective so that before I make call number one to that buyer, that hand raiser, I have an idea. I may not want to, I can tell you how you're not going to win. Shoving features and functions and product down their throat. That will never win, even if that's what they're looking for, ever. Right. And we know this. That's not new. So it's not like somebody's going to go, oh my God, there's a hot take for you. But what is different are the people who take the time to look at it and say, so they have a problem. I have a solution. It's a great fit. We will compete well and I can win this deal. Said, if you want a hot take, here's the hot take. There's two winners in every deal. The one who wins and the first one out. Okay. So I, as a leader, am always trying to tell people, I'm okay with being the first one out, but that starts before you've even talked to the buyer.
Yeah.
Got to have a perspective. You got to know, what is my approach going to look like? Am I going to be able to attack this? What's the angle? Do I have enough information to financially justify this initiative? Am I a commodity? If I'm a commodity, then why are they doing it? Right?
I'll tell you a little bit of history of where I come from, because I feel like it applies here, especially when it comes to preparation and perspective. I started my career at a digital marketing agency where I was writing go-to-market strategies for 35, 50 clients. I know how to write a digital marketing strategy. We had the internet, we did not have AI. So when it came time to understanding, you want to talk about perspective, understanding the buyers, what their pain points were, and how can my message reach those pain points? That's perspective. That was going out into the field, interviewing people, finding subject matter experts, learning sound equipment. I don't know sound equipment. I had to write a go-to-market strategy for sound equipment. So curiosity, I'm going out there, I'm asking the questions, I'm gathering the information. I had that experience base in the back of my mind. So there is no AI, and I'm going to say what I'm going to say. There is no AI that is ever going to replace the experience that I have with knowing my customers, knowing their needs, their pain points, and not just shoving all of my product features down their throat. They don't care. How am I going to help you? How am I going to solve those problems for you? And that's what I'm speaking to. Now, fast forward. I mean, I would spend weeks on those go-to-market strategies, right? Now, fast forward, I do have this incredible tool called AI, but there has to be Kate in there. There
Yeah.
has to be my experience. There has to be a true understanding of a client's pain point and massaging that output. If I copy and paste it and put it in a glossy and send it off, it's dead in the water. It's robotic. It doesn't matter because it's not people-centered. That's what I'm saying. That's what we're missing in our AI touches is the people. People still need people. People need people to understand them. You can use AI as a tool, but it is just that. It's a tool.
No, but you should, all of this has to be said because and I'll further your point a little bit. What you were discussing is the intersect between a go-to-market strategy, your ICP, your solutions, your sales process, all of that, right? So do you know, sadly, how many sellers I can say ICP to and they don't either understand the concept, know what it stands for, which is silly, but true.
Yeah.
Right. And because that ideal client profile, customer profile, however you want to say it, that's your buyer. That's the person whose outcomes I have to understand the most. And guess what? If you're waiting for marketing to tell you to fill in the blank and tell you what those are, you've missed the boat and you've frankly, sold yourself short because you are not the value equation in that. Marketing is creating messaging, or your engineer, or your solution architect, or whoever, right? No, be that. Right? I'm targeting sellers with this comment is understand the whole continuum and what you have to bring to the table. AI accentuates that. If you don't know what it is, ask. If you can't drill in or drill down, do the work, man. At this point, with the tools that are available to us, if you're not putting in the effort to be the expert in your deal and to find, to build perspective before you even get into an opportunity, I hate to tell you, but you're the problem. In order to best have a perspective, tell them something they don't already know. Tell them something they don't already know. That's how you separate yourself and have a perspective. So, and what does that mean? That means I need to look at the industry. How many companies have gone to industry focus, right? There's a reason for that. And it's not because we're putting baby in a corner, right? We're literally trying to put you in a place where you can win. And the best way to win and build perspective is to gain some consistency around an industry. So tell them something they don't already know. That is the key to having a perspective and getting in the door.
On this idea of perspective, I think we kind of already touched on this question a little bit, but how do you develop a point of view that's actually differentiated? How do you get comfortable enough to own it in the room?
Well, I think it starts if I'm gonna answer this question in the vein of I'm going to specifically target the Microsoft ecosystem for a second, because I think we have a couple of variables here where I think this will help people. It starts with understanding what the outcomes are that you're trying to achieve. Not what does my product do? Not what are my features and functions? What are the outcomes that I'm trying to achieve, right? And then it's wrapping my head around what those outcomes actually mean, right? So once I start with that and I focus on outcomes, then I have to back into why would a company tackle this? How would a company get there? What would they have to spend to get there? What would the benefit be to them doing it? What's the pain for them not doing it? That's how you build the perspective, is truly understand the equation, understand the continuum that the buyer is going through, right? Don't fall in love with your product. They don't care. You are a means to an end. I don't care how much you love your baby.
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
product is not what they're buying. They don't care. They care that you are solving for the problem that they have. They care that they can go to sleep at night because their transactions are handled properly and safely, that their payroll is handled on time and properly, right?
Yeah.
They care about all of that.
Yeah. Zooming out and talking about value equation just a little bit more. How does someone actually figure out what their value equation is, especially if they're in a mid-career? Maybe they're feeling a little lost. Maybe they've, dare I say, just lost their jobs. How does someone go about figuring out what their value equation is?
Yeah. So that's you've got a couple of scenarios in the way that you asked that. So
Yeah.
I'm going to focus on the ones who are trying to figure it out, and then I'll come back to the people who might have lost their job. The first part of it is know thyself, know yourself, right? Be honest with yourself, do the assessments. And I don't mean physically go in and do a checklist. I'm saying do some work on who you are. If you're succeeding, drill down into what is making you successful. Is it your work ethic? Is it your knowledge? Is it your approach? Is it that you are the most likable person in the room? We had a guy, his name is Paul Alley. Paul Alley works at a company called AppSpace right now. I remember meeting Paul, and he was making a change in his career. And I remember sitting at lunch with him, and he was coming into a Microsoft business from Verizon national accounts. And I remember finishing the lunch, and he said to me, it's a little intimidating. How do I know I can come in here and be successful? He was very honest. He's like, I don't know the industry. I don't know the solutions. And I looked at him and I said, Paul, if you can be the guy that you were for this last hour at lunch, if you can be that likable, be that inquisitive, be that engaging, if you can be that, I can give you everything else. So Paul Alley built an entire career on being extremely likable, probably one of the most likable people I've ever worked with, right? Self-deprecating humor. But at the core of it with Paul Alley, it was not only that he was likable, he facilitated incredibly well. If the buyer needed something, by gosh, he was going to make sure they got it. If they were going through some pain, he lessened their pain and made their experience better, right? He was never the product expert. But he was one of my most successful reps. He came from zero to club trip in year one.
Yeah.
So it's know yourself. It's know what you bring to the table that separates you, because everybody's not going to be the same. I'm an A-type personality, so I love debate. I love engaging. I love really asking the hard questions that, I've asked questions in rooms, and reps have said to me, I can't get away with saying what you just said. You can't. You're right. Because you don't have the level of depth knowledge or the preparedness to be able to actually have the debate. So you stay away from it. That's fine. But then you better be bringing something, right? So I think it's know thyself. It's know who you are. There's, if anybody has ever read The Challenger Sale, none of these programs get it 100% right because in my opinion, they don't bring the individual and their gifts and their styles into account. All they do is put you into a bucket and say, this is how you should be. Forget that for a second. But what I think is valid is there are all sorts of types and all of them can be successful. You just got to know who you are.
I'm thinking through different types. And yeah, I mean, as you're talking, I'm seeing faces, I'm remembering experiences. And the most successful people were people that knew who they were and leaned into it. I mean, honestly, leadership heroes that I know, and they all know who they are at their core.
It's a cheat code. Know who you are. And I would also say, as it relates to that, be honest with yourself in both your successes and failures, right? The know thyself means that at some point you have to be able to sit down and take a good hard look and know when you're a part of the problem. When your approach has gotten off the rails or when your stress has seeped through so much that you've become borderline hard to navigate a sales process with. That happens with frequency, right? And we have to know that and we have to see that. I do want to come back to something you asked, though, and it's the people who are making a change in their career or who might be out of work or who might have been laid off or whatever. The very first thing, because I would still go back to the know thyself, because I think it all is going to come down to that. What is your value equation? What can I bring that is better than most? How do I differentiate myself? But what the one step that I would say is lower your stress. The one thing that I have seen too much of in our world in the last couple of years, I would even go back through COVID, is just a incredible amount of stress. People wearing it, you can feel it. It's very palpable. Stressing about it is never going to fix it. It's easier said than done. I'm not asking you to be immune to it. We shouldn't be, right? But in order to get to that, then you have to do the one thing that we're all terrible at: unplug, put it down, step away from it, right? You gotta get a breath. I'm gonna actually very specifically something that is very near and dear to me, and I don't mean that all parties don't face this, but males in particular are not good about talking about their stress. We teach them to be strong. We teach them to be, alpha males and whatever. Find somebody you can talk to about it, because I've had too many friends affected by that stress, whether it be health related or worse. It's a stressful world right now for geopolitical reasons, for healthcare reasons, for whatever, for the marketplace we're in. And you will not be your best authentic self if you continue to allow the stress to eat you up. So get it, step back, take a breath, re-entrench and come back at the problem.
Yeah. That's really great perspective, Kevin. That's really great advice. Moving your body, getting outside, taking a walk. It's such a simple thing, but it makes a difference. The body keeps score, right? It
For
never
sure.
forgets. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Take care of yourself, man. We've only got one go round, right?
Yeah. All right. There's a book that I read, did a coffee talk with Brad Pendergast on it about time, and it's time management for mere mortals. And it isn't a time management book. It's more of we have a set number of weeks that we are here, not a time management, but what are you doing with that time? Where are you plugging in? I'll link it in the show notes. That coffee talk with Brad, it's something that both of us feel very passionately about, knowing what refuels you, what recharges you, and helps you keep going. Because here's the thing about change, it's inevitable. I remember a video I saw a couple of years ago, and it was a bunch of film stars sitting around a table, and they were saying, this too shall pass. If things are going horribly wrong, this too shall pass. If things are going remarkably well, guess what? This too shall pass. And so finding again, I keep coming back to your why, you're consistent through all of the changes and leaning back into yourself. And I think that's so very important. So that's really, really great advice. I need to put that on my whiteboard to monitor my stress levels. I wear an Aura ring, and some days she's like, let me give you some meditation tactics because your stress is outrageous right now.
I think that data is so great, because how often are you in the moment and you don't even realize that
Don't
it's
realize
eating,
it.
like you didn't realize you didn't sleep well or like the data is great, but use the data. Don't let the data consume you. Even that's a great example of it. I love that.
So a lot of these that you've given these ideas are culture fundamentals at UST. So I feel like I'm like finishing your sentences. I'm trying to not, Kevin, but I feel like, your value equation, one of our principles is add value everywhere you go. Everything you're doing, every conversation you're having, add value. You have another one about responsiveness. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. There are a lot of isms, a lot of euphemisms about selling. The one thing it used to be the case that people would say the first person to talk to a buyer has the greatest likelihood of winning the deal. I would actually argue that is not true, because if you drop the ball and you don't follow through, you are done.
Yeah.
Right? So it is amazing how many deals are won simply by sending the email or giving them the quote or doing the thing. And I'm talking about first call resolution kind of stuff, right? Be responsive. Be tuned into the things that you owe the process and never be in the way of it. Like a hot potato, get it off of your plate. And I don't mean callously, I don't mean quickly. I mean, time kills all deals, right? More deals are lost to no decision than they are lost to competition. We know this. I say that and people are rolling their eyes like it's not a reality. We all know it's a reality, and yet we continually are slow, right? Be passionate about being responsive, about, people lose control of their deals. You know when they lose control of their deals? When they stop communicating or stop delivering on the things that are on your plate to deliver. Because if I owe you something and I have delivered every part of that, guess what I have the ability to do? Ask for things in return.
Yeah. Yeah.
So simple, right? But I see it all the time. It's like bad habits that resurface. Hope is not a strategy. There's another great business book. Hope is not a strategy. You can't hope that things are just going to work themselves out. Or, I don't want to get, I know I told them I would get them that information. Whatever the answer is, bad news doesn't age well. If you don't have a good answer, get them that answer.
Yeah.
Right. But be responsive. I think I mentioned when the internet was coming to be, I remember this big shift because, again, you went from conduit to information to now all of a sudden they had all this information. By the way, much like the AI world we're living in, not all of it was accurate. Right.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
But now, how do I add value? One of the best ways we can add value, and it is so simple, it is quite literally just discipline. Help them facilitate their process as fast as the buyer want to be. Because if you can take the deal off the street before anything blows up, you'd be shocked how much your win rate will go up because you facilitated the decision and didn't get mired in no decision.
Yeah. Time kills all deals. I feel like that applies beyond sales. That kind of shows up everywhere, right?
It does.
Yeah. Yeah. We have an intern that started with us at the beginning of in August. And one of my very first sales calls with him, he said, well, Kate, there's fortune in the follow-up. And I said, we are putting that on a t-shirt. I love that. There's fortune in the follow-up. And, I will kind of speak to that a little bit in our follow-ups. I'm a very big give, don't grab mentality. Of course, I want to make the sale. Of course, it's about revenue at the end of the day. But how can I add value? How can I educate? How can I show a potential pain point that could come down the road? But just giving a broader set of information in that give, don't grab.
Yeah. Well, and you also, there's a hidden secret, I think, in what you're saying too, which is, give, don't grab. There's a giving in and of itself is an interesting phrase, whether it's giving yourself to a process, giving yourself, to something you're doing. I'm also a believer in, there's a book called The Go-Giver, right? And we're in this world where networking matters, right? And we're also in this world where if you have the opportunity to do something for somebody, and if it's not going to, I'm a big believer in it anyway, but the more you give to anything, the more you'll get back, right? And it sounds so simple, but truly give with no intent to get back and watch how much is going to come back your way, right? So whether that means a referral, whether that means helping somebody get in the door and not expecting anything from it, right? Whatever it is, give of yourself. If that's knowledge, if it's mentoring, if it's a leg up, I think you'll see posts on LinkedIn that I put out there just promoting somebody who may have lost their job or something like that. People will literally, when they get a job, be like, what can I do for you? Nothing.
Pay it forward.
Yes, please do, right? Because why have a network without using it, right? So I would encourage people, give of yourself to the deal, to the conversation, to the relationship, to the channel, to all of it. Give.
We're just a cog.
Yeah.
we're a part of a bigger piece. And, I get those. I got one today of someone that just lost their job and is looking for another opportunity. And I always say the same thing, my ear is to the ground. And I'm listening. And if I hear of anything, I send it. It is because we're a community. And a community is we're a part of something bigger. And we're feeding, breathing, living community. And so what are you putting into it? We've talked about so many things. Before we wrap, I want to ask you a question very, very directly. If someone is listening to this episode and they're feeling stuck or uncertain or like the market is just working against them, what do you actually want them to do?
Well, I think go back to something that we said earlier, which is take a step back, take a breath, take a moment, find some inner peace. This is, for those of you who've known me for 20 plus years, I'm still that aggressive, guy, but I have found quite a bit of benefit, especially in the last couple of years, in really doing a better job of taking that step away for a moment. And that's the first thing that I tell anybody who's going through that. But the second thing then is, as you're evaluating and re-entrenching and trying to decide what that next step looks like, build a plan and execute to that. Tackle it the same way that you would anything that you've been successful with in life, right? Build a plan. One commonality with younger generation people that I'm surprised about that I meet with right now is this generation has to come into the business world. And I don't care about being in tech or not, and they have to be AI savvy. I am actually disappointed by how many people I talk to that haven't put beyond their course of study at school effort into truly understanding how they can leverage AI to get ahead. So I consistently tell people coming into the job market, I just told you I use 7 or 8 different platforms on the daily, right? They're all different. They all have strengths. They all have weaknesses. They all have different outcomes that you can drive from them, but use them. Because if you can't bring that to the table when you're going into your next job situation, I promise you they're going to notice. They're going to expect that you do if you come from especially the younger generations. But even folks who are later in their career, learn a new trick, right? I mean, I've learned Canva and I've learned coding, vibe coding and whatnot via Claude and other things. And would I have done that 10 years ago? No, but the tools are available to do that now, right?
Yeah.
Right. So learn, have a plan, have know what it is that you're trying to accomplish and what you're trying to attack. But there is one key. Do not play the game the way it's drawn up out there. And what I mean by that is stop applying to web job postings. A high percentage of them they're there because they're trolling or trying to find something. Some of them might still be active. I promise you, you will not get a job going through the web form for that. If you have a network, use it. If you can use my network to get you in the door somewhere, use it. If you have a company that you want to target, go pull them up on LinkedIn, find out who the executives are and see if I'm attached to them. I will reach out or somebody else will reach out. But I always say, don't turn the boat. Don't rock the boat. Turn the son of a gun over.
Yeah.
Turn it over. Change the game. And the way to change the game is if your resume is going in the stack of thousands of others, you will not win that game. Improve your chances.
Yeah. Kevin, I love this. Here are a couple of very big things I'm taking away. You've said so many nuggets. We talked about curiosity. The people that keep asking questions are the ones who keep winning, who keep evolving, who keep learning. We talked about controlling what you can control, preparing, being more prepared than anybody else, responding. It's another one of our culture fundamentals is be a fanatic about response time. Show up with a perspective. That's the whole game. Switching it up, being different, standing out, leveraging a network. There is opportunity. Just reach out to your network, reach out to your community to come alongside you and help you out. Kevin, I'm going to put your LinkedIn in the show notes. Go find Kevin, look him up. If you're not already connected to him, connect. And do you have any final parting words?
To wrap, first of all, again, I want to come back to saying thank you. Thank you for the venue. Thank you for doing what you do. Coffey Talk is a wonderful thing. You're a bright light and an energy in the channel, one that I am 100% certain will continue to shine brightly in our worlds that we cross. In closing, one thing I would just want to say to the whole group is I mentioned up front that I'm grateful. The one thing that I didn't go into when I was saying that I do want to end with, though, is the biggest thing that I'm grateful for are the leaders that I've had the opportunity to learn from. Tony DiBenedetto, Mike Gillis, Warren Patterson. I can go on and on and on with these incredible leaders that I've known, Sam Damasiri, on and on and on, right? And I'm talking at Microsoft as well. But the proudest thing, people ask me all the time, what are you most proud of in your career? It's the people that I've been a part of their journey who I'm watching be successful now. It's the Ryan Grants, it's the Dom Cristellis, it's the Marty Priests, it's the Peter Harrises, it's the Denise Adams. I mean, I literally can go, Matt Forsyth, who's the CEO of a company right now. I mean, the sheer number of people who I have been able to watch achieve their goals in this tech ecosystem that we're in, that's the good stuff. That's the stuff I'm most proud about. So thank you for that. I'm grateful for being a part of your journey, and pay that forward and be a part of somebody else's journey.
Absolutely. Kevin, thank you for pulling up a chair. Thank you for being on Coffee Talk. We'll see you next time. Thank you for joining us today on Coffee Talk. A special thanks to my guests for sharing their story, and to you, the listener, for being a part of this conversation. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe so you never miss a Monday morning chat. Until next time, I'm Kate Coffey Bacon, and this has been Coffee Talk.